what does a Republican win in the midterms mean for money flowing to poor nations?
Well, first of all, we don't know the final outcome, and it looks as if the Democratic Party may hold on to control of the Senate, which is a startling outcome because, as you know, normally the first midterm election for an incumbent president's party sees the big losses, but it's not happening. There wasn't a big so-called red wave. So we'll have to wait and see how this plays out.
So what does it mean, though, for, I mean, we heard the Republicans. So if this goes the way the Republicans wanted it to, they said, for example, they would go after companies that were not friendly to fossil fuel. What does that mean?
Well, the markets are making a different decision. We have seen last year worldwide, if you look at all of the new electricity generation built and installed worldwide, 90% of it was renewable because it's now the cheapest electricity in world history, according to the International Energy Agency and other experts. So we're seeing a massive movement toward more climate-friendly policies. In fact, we're in the early stages of a sustainability revolution empowered by artificial intelligence and new digital technologies, a revolution that has the magnitude of the Industrial Revolution coupled with the speed of the digital revolution. So whatever politicians in different countries want to opine on, we're seeing business and investors and markets move towards solutions for the climate crisis.
I know there are big question marks, but so even if the Republicans do end up winning the midterms, it does not necessarily mean that it will make it harder for poorer countries to get to net zero.
Well, look, as I said in my speech here at the opening of this conference, there's a credibility problem for all of us who have been saying, you know, we've got to meet these pledges. There have been impressive pledges, but this is called an implementation conference because now is the time to follow through.
And show me the money.
Show me, as the Jerry Maguire movie said, show me the money. Yeah, and you know, let me give you a quick example, Francine. Solar energy is the best, cheapest, pollution-free energy. If you're in Nigeria, you want to build a new solar farm, you have to pay interest rates 7 times higher than are the rates paid by OECD countries. That's crazy, because 90% of the expected increase in emissions will come from developing countries, and 86% of all the financing for renewable energy and other sustainability advances comes from the private sector. We have to open up access to private capital markets to the developing world.
And do you think we'll do it? I mean, this is about action. This is COP27
yes, so.
implementation.
I think there is an emerging consensus here that we have to have leadership in the World Bank focus on new policies, and deeper than that, we have to have reform of the World Bank with more special drawing rights, more leverage, so that they can devote more of the world's private capital toward these incredibly sensible and profitable investments in pollution-free, cheaper, sustainable energy, which, by the way, is massively deflationary at a time when the world needs to fight inflation.
You're frustrated that the World Bank is not doing more. Why is it not doing more?
Well, I don't want to make it personal because it's more important than that. But the leader appointed by the previous U.S. president has been known as a climate denier, and the bank is still offering its support for fossil fuel. It's crazy. And worldwide, we are still seeing taxpayers forced to subsidize more fossil fuel at a rate 37 times higher than the meager subsidies for renewable energy. That has to be changed.
Vice President, talk to me a little bit about financing. So if you look at GFANZ, which was started in Glasgow, this is basically an alliance of asset managers and financial companies to help the transition. The members grew. Maybe it has less teeth than we thought it would. Is it better to have a broader church but be less ambitious?
Well, you know, one of the keys to making GFANZ and the other groups that are making commitments of this kind work, like the Asset Managers Coalition that is committed to net zero portfolios. We launched today the Climate Trace Initiative, which now gives accurate measurements of the exact amounts of global warming pollution coming from every significant source of global warming pollution in the world, so that the GFANZ members and the Net Zero Asset Managers Alliance and the 88 nations that have made net zero commitments can be held to account. Yeah. Because now we know where the pollution is coming from, and we can measure whether they're following up or not.
But if there's a choice between having a more robust framework, a more aggressive framework with less members, or a less aggressive framework with more members, what would you choose?
Well, that's an interesting question, very, very thoughtful question. I want everybody committed to the kind of action that we need. We have a global emergency now. You know, we're still putting 162 million tons of man-made global warming pollution into the sky every day, using the sky as an open sewer. That's trapping as much extra heat as would be released by 600,000 Hiroshima-class atomic bombs exploding every day. That's what the scientists tell us, and the data shows it. That's crazy. That's why we have a third of Pakistan underwater. That's why we have the historic heat wave in China, nothing comparable to that ever. That's why the heat records are broken every year, and we're seeing an increase in the flows of climate refugees crossing international borders that are due to vastly expand unless we take action to solve the climate crisis.
Why is the Chinese president not here?
Well, first of all, Xi Jinping, who is one of the most capable climate experts and negotiators in the world, a dear friend, saw him yesterday. He is here, and President Xi Jinping is due to meet with President Joe Biden in Bali at the time of the meeting there, and they are going to restart this climate dialogue, I feel certain. So I'm optimistic that in the wake of the Party Congress, now China will get back into a cooperative relationship with all the countries that are trying to solve this climate crisis. China's being hit by it worse than almost any country. The Yangtze is at its lowest level ever. It's really having an impact on the Chinese economy and some fear on the stability of China. And that's what the Chinese Communist Party pays closest attention to. So I hope that they will re-engage with the world community.